Hey, what's up? Uncle Young here again. Today I want to talk about the trade war that U.S. right now against the whole world basically, and also I will talk about the relationship between U.S. and China. It's just some of my opinion, and I will use some easy understanding examples for everyone to understand my point. So let me talk about the trade war first. So as everyone know, the U.S. government started trade war against almost the rest of the world, which is very crazy to me. I believe it's kind of crazy to some of you as well. The reason I say that is because it's quite down to make sense, right? I know the U.S. government and Trump keep saying, the President Trump keeps saying the reason we start trade war because the rest of the world not treat us right, not treat the U.S. right. They've been taking advantage of us, and he wants to bring the manufacturing back to the U.S. land by doing that, which is impossible. Okay, here's a very simple example here. So let's talk about the trade war between U.S. and China as a example. Why we pick China? Because first, China used to be, probably even today, it used to be the #1 export country, meaning this country export a lot of the products to the rest of the world, including the U.S. market, of course to Europe, to Japan, to Korea, things like that. Everybody, if you go to Walmart, you pick up a product, you probably see a tag saying made in China, right? Everyone knows that. So pick up China will way more easy to describe what's really happened in a trade war. So one thing the U.S. government and the Trump team keep saying is when the trade war start, U.S. government gonna make more the sales, the trading tax based on the trade war, that there's they ask if some country want to import something into U.S. Before they maybe only need to pay 10% the import tax. Now it increased to crazy like 100%, 50%, 100%, things like that. So they are saying they can make a lot of the tax money based on that. Which U.S. governments, they are making money, but the question is, who is paying for that? The short answer is people, you and me is paying for this tax money. Why is that? Here's an example. Let's say the total U.S. market, right? It needs so many clothes, right? If you go to Walmart, you always see there's a section for the kids' clothes, man clothes, woman clothes, all that. And then those clothes are sold for pretty competitive price. $5 for one piece, $10 for one piece. The reason that price is quite low compared to some other brands is because a lot of those clothes come from either China or the Asian market, Asian Pacific countries, and then their labor fee is way cheaper than here. Okay, and then even it's an import products, even there are tax on that, the import tax, and the Walmart make a profit of them, they're still very cheap. Let's say in the past, just example, it's about 10 to 20% of the sales tax, not sales tax, but import tax on each clothes, right? And all of a sudden, Trump saying, okay, now we want China to pay 100% tax. I believe people still believe that number, still remember that number, okay? And then when that happen is normal people who does not have the background, finance background, this like type of knowledge, they maybe think, oh, China, that means China gonna pay that 100% increase the tax. Not true at all. When the manufacturer in China start to produce those clothing and other products, they only making about average 5 to 10% of a profit. So all of a sudden, you ask them to pay 100% import tax. So what they're gonna be? They not making money anymore. They cannot making profit anymore. So if you are the boss to own those manufacturers in China, what you are going to do is you're gonna tell whoever gonna buy your products saying, no, I cannot do that because you might as well tell me to close my factories and tell my workers to go home because it doesn't make sense. I cannot make any profit. So imagine that Walmart needs millions of clothes every period, right? Import from China or maybe other countries. They cannot stop that import because if they stop import those products, you're gonna see the Walmart not manufacturer, but the Walmart store gonna be empty, right? So they need to keep buying it. So the Walmart will be like, okay, still produce that. I will still buy with the price that we negotiated in the past, and don't worry about the import tax. Okay, just do what you've been doing, because we need to put those stuff on the shelf for my customers to buy. Okay, so China be like, okay, as long as I'm not paying, I'm good. Okay, so they're still doing that, and then you will ask, okay, then who else gonna pay? If China not paying, if the rest of the world not paying, is Walmart going to pay that? Do you think Walmart going to pay that? No. Short answer is no. Why is that? It's because Walmart only make profit about 20 to 30%. Okay, they have to pay the electricity bills, they have to pay the rent of them location, they have to pay them workers, and then after paying all that, it's not too much money, a profit room left, maybe 20, maybe to 30 some of the products, and all of a sudden they need to pay 100% tax, import tax. The same reason as the China manufacturer, they are not going to pay. So if Walmart going to pay that, they're gonna lose money, right? Same as like Costco, Target, all other stores in the U.S. So what that happen is they maybe give up a little bit of range, about 5%, maybe 10%. I don't think they even give up 10% profit range. They maybe give up a little bit of room, but they still not going to pay the full amount of that import tax. And then right now, who is still be able to pay that tax in the whole picture? So we know the manufacturer, they're not going to pay. The middle guy who is selling those stuff, they are not going to pay. They only have one thing, one person left in the room is the customer, which is you and me and whoever going to those places to buy the products. We are going to pay the tax. So with that being said, no matter how beautiful this whole story sounds like, we are end to pay the import tax, okay? And that is the reason why the price shoot to rocket high in the past couple years in all the stores that you go, okay? Everything become very, very expensive. That's one big reason. Another reason is the supply chain broke. So when the U.S. government increased import tax, that does affect a lot of the manufacturing in the Asian market, okay, or maybe some other countries too. What did that happen is it increased the import tax of a sudden in one night, and the whole supply chain plus the stores in the US, they cannot take that in one day. It's like the big environment change that you cannot just consume that change in one day. So what happened is that those stores like Costco, like Target, like Walmart, they be saying, okay, let's pause a little bit. Let's reduce the import amount of our products for a couple months, maybe 3 months. Maybe U.S. government maybe decrease the import tax. Maybe things going better in the future, and could going even worse in the future. Let's just pause a little bit to see, because we still have some stuff in our warehouse. We can still move them around. So when that happen, what happened in the manufacturing side is, oh, okay, because they get the contracts month by month by the U.S. Retail sellers, okay, and all of a sudden they are not going to import those products. So those manufacturers in China, in other Asian Pacific countries, they all of a sudden them cash flow stopped, right? Because when the retail side, they said, okay, I'm gonna pause a couple months, then the manufacturer be like, okay, so what you want me to do? You want me to hang in there for a couple months too? The reality is, yes, you have to hang in there for a couple months. And then how the factory work is, they produce stuff by contract. If you are not going to buy the products, I'm not going to run my machine and produce all that. What if you are not buying, right? If I produce 1,000 clothes, I need to guarantee someone is going to buy it. Otherwise, it's just a big waste of the material, and then the rent of the factory, and then when you turn the machine on, you need to pay the electricity bills. You get pay all those workers that are on the running those machines. So if they don't have a contract, they are not going to turn that button on, okay? So if you pause a couple months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, you're gonna make a factory bankrupt. And that's what really happened for a lot of the factories in a downstream, okay? So when those factories close, they are not gonna recover in the future. When they close, when they apply a bankrupt, it destroyed that part of the supply chain. So that's what you hear in the news talk about. Even the import tax decreased, we still need some time to resolve the supply chain problem. When they say that because the factory they used to buy those clothing, the other products, they bankrupt. they close, okay? So now they have to find a new one to produce their product, okay? So it's not gonna be a very short-term impact, it's gonna be a long-term impact. You could potentially impact a year or 2 or even longer than that. And then those supply chain problem, the issue, gonna cause the lack of products, okay? So one side, you increase import tax, that's gonna directly increase the price, the retail price of every single product. 2, the supply chain problem make the products getting less and less. And we all know if there's a high demand but less products, the price of that product is going to shoot rocket high too. And the US government is also printing money, right? During the pandemic, we all know they give the free money to everybody, which is important because a lot of people they cannot work or they lose their job. They needed a few dollars to help them survive during that time. But where all those money come from? Where all the U.S. government money come from? From taxpayers. But how you can all of a sudden, because they do a budget every year, right? How you can all of a sudden give such big amount of money to everybody? They print that. Just, yes, right, just print all those money without even doing anything. And that's gonna cause a very high inflation as well. So that's why I believe everyone live in the US have the same feeling. In the past couple years, maybe 3 years, everything's increased almost 50% or more. And that's what's already happened in the past in a very short example. And are this going to keep continue? If the trade war not stop, it's going to continue. It's never gonna stop, okay? Because the trade war is basically saying, okay, I don't want everybody to just import the stuff to my land. In the old days, why people doing that is because we want to protect our local manufacturer, okay? Because if you keep import those products that can beat our local products with such a competitive price, our local manufacturer is going to close, right? Because they cannot survive. So Trump basically thinking, okay, if I do this, if I increase import tax, that's gonna stop the U.S. market, force the U.S. market to only buy the stuff within the U.S., not outside the U.S. But is that going to happen? Do you think? Do you see that happen right now? I don't see anything like that happen actually. And will that happen in the future? To be honest, from my background, my knowledge about what's really happening, between China, US, and rest of the world, I don't think that's going to happen. Here's a very simple example again. Think about how much, if there's the same T-shirt to you want to produce, think how much the manufacturer is going to pay in here and compared to pay the same worker that is in China or even in the Asian Pacific countries. That's very different, right? So if you hire a worker here to pay them to do in a factory, I will guess at least you're gonna pay that worker $18 to $25 an hour, right? And then how many clothes that worker can make every day, right? All that, and then how many days your worker is going to work in the U.S. 5 days, right? Maybe at the weekend, but at the weekend you gotta pay higher, right? You are not going to pay only 18 to 25 no more. You probably end up paying 25 to 35, things like that. So the other side of the world, China and other countries, they only pay their work. Here's a true right now happening, the true situation that in China, because I'm from there. They have a lot of manufacturing that they build a factory here, and they have a total another building or several buildings next to the factory. For what those buildings for the workers to stay, basically their accommodation. Okay, so when they hire those young workers, male, female, usually they are like 18 right after they graduate from high school. Very young, but they don't know what to do. They don't get a good chance to go to college, so they basically not going to college, and their family is kind of poor. they need to make money right away to help them family and themselves, they go to those manufacturing, okay? Because the manufacturing in China, with the local pricing, they get paid decent. But guess how much they get paid every month? About, in a good condition, in a big city, they get paid about 1,200 to 1,500 US dollar a month. So you do the math. If it's 30 days divided by 30, every day they only get paid. If it's 1,500 divided by 30, it's $50 a day. So you will think that's 8 hours a day. No, it's not 8 hours. It's 10 to 12 hours. So if you compare both workers, one is the worker in China, the other one's working in the US. One is get paid, we just talk about 50 for 10 hours, so $5 per hour. This one's at least need $18, right? The $18 probably still very low, so it's already more than 3 times higher than the Chinese worker, okay? And then this one work 10 hours to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. This one 8 hours, 5 days a week. That's another difference. And then the US side also have the union, right? They usually have the union, and then the union will try to get the best benefits for their workers, which is very good, right? Which is very good for the workers, but it decreases the profit room from the owner, the boss of the manufacturer, right? So if you are the businessman, you are trying to open a manufacturing, are you going to open that in China or Asian Pacific country, or you are going to open that in the US? I think the answer is very clear. They are going to pick another country away from the US to open that, right? Because they can make way more profit there instead of deal with all those stuff here and making way less profit. So when Trump and the US government, the current government, trying to move the manufacturing back into US, with that example I just described, do you think that's going to happen? No, right? It's not going to happen. Let's say if that happened, let's say the best situation, they did some magic, this whole world going crazy. The people, the owner of the manufacturing or the retail store, they don't care about the numbers, the profit no more. They just say, I love US, I want to move that back to. Okay, they move that back to US. And guess how much you're going to pay for all those products in the future then, right? Because the worker who make those products is more than 3 times, let's just say 3 times more expensive to hire. And then you can waive the import tax, right? That's okay. But you still have to pay the sales tax. Everything else in the US is probably more expensive than compared with like the material, the bills you're going to pay to support the factory running, all those things, they are going to be more expensive, right? So that's just 3 times higher. So now if you pay $10 to buy a t-shirt at Walmart, in the future that t-shirt gonna be $30, okay? If you pay $30 to buy a Nike or Adidas t-shirt, that one gonna become $90 to $100 in the future. As a customer, do you want to see that happen? Do you want to spend 3 more times at least to buy every single product in the future? Even you love your country that much, but do you want to pay 3 more? That's the price you're going to pay to love your country, three times more. Do you want to do that? I think the answer is no, right? Nobody want to pay that much to love your country. If that's the case, well, just keep the manufacturing outside the U.S. Let's just do what we used to do, right? So that's the trade war, and I think it's just something fancy to say, to dream about, but never gonna happen. Okay, this thing never gonna happen. So if you hear anyone still talking about that, still use that as something they trying to get votes, ignore that. Okay, because that thing's not going to happen. That's basically a lie. So does Trump them know it's a lie? For sure they know. I don't believe people at that high position with his team, with all those professionals, they don't know those simple things that I even know. They for sure knows it. But why they say that? To fool the people who does not have the knowledge, and also it's such a good thing to play with in the game to earn some votes, right? That's the reason. Okay, so now I want to talk about the relationship between China and the U.S. Okay, China and the U.S. is kind of like husband and wife. So who is the husband? U.S. is the husband. Who is the wife? China is the wife. Okay, so in the old days, in the past 20 years, they've been in a very, very good, romantic, happy marriage. Okay, basically, U.S. tell China to do this, to do that. China did all that. Okay, and then and U.S. is very happy about it. So U.S. gave, it's just like a husband give wife some little jewelries, buy her some necklace, some ring, diamond ring on anniversary, this and that, and then the wife does a real good job to taking care of the kids, clean the house, things like that, and then also satisfy the husband in the bedroom, things like that, right? So, but recently, probably started 2018, right before the pandemic, China started to say no to the U.S. It's basically kind of like the housewife all of a sudden have turned 180 degrees, saying, no, I don't want to be a housewife no more. I want to be a man. Yes, you're right. The housewife all of a sudden want to be a man. So in the old roles, that's a happy family. That was a happy family. The husband, which is U.S., like a real man in charge in the house, and then China produce all the products, all the manufacturing to supply the U.S. market. Everybody happy. U.S. can get very cheap products from China with decent price. China made a lot of U.S. dollar by selling those products to U.S., right? So Chinese people get rich. U.S. people get cheaper products. Both happy, right? But now China want to start talk about take the Taiwan back, right? They want a big theory called only one China theory. So they want the mainland trying to take Taiwan back. And then also with some other proposed, like they want to run them on RMB, the Chinese currency, as the #1 global currency against the US dollar, things like that. And all those stuff is challenging the US #1 position, which is kind of like the wife saying, no, now I won't become a man, and you turn around become a woman, okay? You go to the bedroom and lay down, and I am a man gonna be on top of you. What US gonna react? Extremely mad, and it's not gonna happen, right? So that's what's really happening between US and China at this point. It's at the tip of it's already past the separation. Now they are in a divorce stage. Okay, they are fighting each other, and also China is trying to transfer her feminine role to a real man role. Okay, they expand them army. They train. They put a lot of the effort to make the new weapons, things like that. So, what do I think is going to happen in the future? I think if both countries, especially the Chinese attitude, is not going to change, it's still trying to take the number one place in the world, those two countries are gonna have more and more conflict in any ways. It's not just a trade war, and I think y'all probably hear about the news about Taiwan. China for sure want to take that back, and U.S. of course is support Taiwan's independence, and then Japan also play a key role in the whole situation. Okay, so this whole thing is going to this year is 2026. So next couple years we may see a lot of conflicts here and there around the area in Taiwan, Japan there. So I hope the whole world is in peace. Nothing crazy happen. I hope everyone pray for that as well. But if you have any travel plan to go there in the next couple years, you may read or watch news all the time, and maybe you want to change your travel plan because it's quite unstable right there. And the best relationship between China and the U.S. is still the old days. The U.S. played the husband role, and the China played the wife role. And people may ask, that's not fair, right? That's not fair. Why China cannot play the number one and U.S. play the number two or number three? Why U.S. always gonna play the number one? That's a lot of people's question. Here's the thing. As a U.S. people, as a U.S. citizen, I will guarantee you, you will not want the U.S. become number two or number three. It doesn't matter who become number one, China or Europe, whole Europe Union or any other country. It doesn't matter who become number one. U.S. does not want to become number two. If U.S. one day become number two in the world, that means the U.S. currency system is gonna crash. And with that happen, the whole economy, the U.S.-based economy is going to crash. And then everything you enjoy, everybody in the U.S., all the citizens that enjoy the life standard today, is going to down at least divided by 3. Okay, whatever you enjoy today, it's gonna become the history. You're not going to drive your car. Every family almost have 2 cars. Drive the car all the time. Enjoy the low price of the gasoline. Everyone, if you have a decent job, you can get a house. You can pay a mortgage. All those fancy stuff gone. Okay, people gonna struggle and pay them rent. You're gonna squeeze into a small condo. The product's price will not be that low. It's just a lot of things going to happen, and why is that? And that's because the current U.S. currency, the U.S. dollar, is the number one trading currency in the world. So the U.S. built a whole system that the rest of the country need to follow. Okay, the very strong economy system. So U.S. is actually today's world's number one market. That's why Trump can raise his voice, tell everybody that I want to increase the import tax, and all other people except they can only complain, but they can't do anything because U.S. is number one market. Okay, it's the strongest and biggest market, have the most buying power in the world. That's why U.S. can do some dumb shit and then nothing happened to them. Okay, because of money. And the U.S. currency becomes such a strong is because it's built up on the U.S. government, the whole U.S. country's credit, and the super strong U.S. Army. And basically, in a short word, is U.S. is number one. Because you are number one, so people use your currency to trade. If one day you become number two, they are not going to use your currency to trade on everything anymore. And where are those US dollars going to use these days? The central bank just prints US dollar, print. The US government have $39 trillion debts today, 39 trillion. And in 2026, I think the budget is like about 5 trillion. I don't know how they can pay that back, but why they not scared? Because they know somebody is going to buy the bonds from them to help them pay the debts back. Okay, why is that? Because US is number one. Whatever they want to do, other people gonna follow and do it. If it become number two or number three, the US dollar is not the number one trading currency no more. Then no one want to buy US bonds anymore. And when no one wants to buy US bonds anymore, that 39 trillion debts is not going to pay back. And when that's not going to pay back, the US government credit crash. And you all know my very first video, I talk about credit history. You all know if a person's credit crash, it needs 7 years to build up, right? And during that 7 years, you cannot borrow any money. When you make any money from your job, you're gonna give a part of the check to the creditor, right? Same thing for the country, and even worse, when the country credit crash, you just abandoned by the rest of the world. Okay, there's one country called Iceland, I think, is the government and Greece too. The government credit crashed. Then people, basically all the money they've been making, they've been saving in the bank and all that become paper, pure paper. It's worth nothing in one night. So all the money today you're making whatever, and then saving all those money in any assets. Maybe it's cash in the bank, maybe it's in the real estate, like you have a house or whatever, maybe you have some fancy car, maybe you have stock, anything. In one day, it's gonna worth basically nothing, because your country credit crash. Okay, and then whoever gonna replace that number one place, they are going to use their currency to be the global trading currency, and then to buy all those actually very valuable assets in the US by a very, very cheap price. So no one wants that happen. If you are a US citizen, you don't want to see that happen. Okay, so that's just some of my opinion about trade war, about the relationship between US and China. And then the best way between US and China is in the old days. Okay, the US still in charge, China do what it need to do, and then China can make some money from the US, everybody happy. US can still keep printing the money, printing, and then use those printed money to buy very cheap but very good quality of products from the rest of the world. So the people in the US, the citizens in the US can enjoy that with such a low price. So everybody happy in this system. And then when other countries made so much US dollar from the US, what are they going to do with those US dollar in their hands? They buy US bonds. Yes, it's like a whole closed circle. US printing all the money, buy the products from rest of the world. The rest of the world gets all those US dollar, right? When they sell the products, they made all those US dollar money. So what they gonna do with those money? They buy US bonds. And where the US bonds goes towards to, then 39 trillion US debts. It's closed up. That's how they play the game in the past. but now we maybe see some shaking in this whole closed circle because not all the country want to buy the US bonds no more, and then that's why you see the gold price shoot to rocket high. I will make another video to talk about the gold price, why the gold price so high recently, will that keep going up, and why I think a couple of weeks or 3 weeks ago, why the gold future and silver future market crash, and that crash also lead the stock market and the crypto market crash. All the reason behind that. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I feel like I'm doing better and better too. And then if you enjoy this type of content, please let me know. And then if you have any feedback, advice, please let me know as well. Thank you.